Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head up towards Gothenburg once again, Göteborg as you would say in Swedish, the Swedish craft beer capital, and we're going to revisit a brewery who are probably my favourite Swedish brewery at the moment, and this is a style of beer that I've really gotten into over the last kind of year, 18 months, and it was this brewery that really turned the key and were responsible for that, so very much looking forward to this one. For this review then we are going to go to Landvetter, kind of to the northeast of the city if I'm remembering correctly, out by the airport, and we're having a look at another beer from the wonderful Bryggeri. So this one is my third beer from the Grand Series. It's an Imperial Stout coming in at 10% ABV, and it's simply called Coffee. So this one, obviously it's a coffee Imperial Stout, and it's brewed with coffee from Damateo, who are one of the numerous coffee roasteries that you'll find around Gothenburg these days. This one was released on the 2nd of February 2020 through the local and Småskoligt assortment that you get now in Systembolaget every month, where the local breweries have very quick access to the market, which is great. It was released alongside the Fudge and the Dimma, which was a collaboration IPA that they did with Burnt Mill over in Suffolk in England. Both of those were very nice beers, and those reviews will have published by the time that you see this one. I think that I might be saving the best one for last, so really curious to see how this one turns out. The coffee stouts, like I said, from Dugas are quite special in my opinion. The first ones that I tried, it was the Sidamo Dimtu, and then it was the Key, if I remember correctly, and you know, those were just amazing beers. The first coffee stouts that I tried, collaborations with Hunter and Sons, coffee roastery from over in Bristol in England, who unfortunately aren't in existence anymore. But previous to that, they did a few collaborations with some other coffee roasteries around Gothenburg. And you know, if you enjoy a coffee stout, the ones that you get from Bryggeri are going to be very impressive. And this is a brewery who are very prolific. They're not scared to try different styles in my mind, and that's one of the things that makes me kind of view them as one of the best breweries that you're going to find in Sweden at the moment. I've had quadruples, I've had lager beers, I've had hazy IPAs, I've had fruit beers and sours and stuff like that. Whatever these guys tend to try, it seems to work very well. So if you're interested in Swedish beers and you haven't tried Bryggeri, you really need to be honest with you. So really curious to see how this one turns out. A style that I really enjoy, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on it as well. Let's see how we get on then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Bryggeri before. This must be review number 20 or 25 or something like that. I've reviewed a lot of beers from these guys over the last couple of years, and that list is going to be added to quite regularly, I'm sure. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is that takes your fancy. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to whenever I get the opportunity, which is pretty much all the time. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then, to tell you a little bit about Bryggeri once again. So as I've mentioned to you already, Bryggeri are based in Landvetter, which is in the outskirts of Gothenburg, kind of to the northeast of the city, very close to Gothenburg Airport on the west coast of Sweden. So the brewery was established back in 2005, which makes it one of the older craft breweries in Sweden, but it was first established in Mölndal to the south of the city by Mikael Engström Dugge. A few years previously, Mikael had met an English guy who was selling second-hand breweries, and this really got him thinking about brewing his own beer. So he studied the Swedish alcohol laws and went around and visited some of the breweries that were already in existence there, and he started buying equipment to put together his own brewery, and this culminated with the opening of their first facility in Mölndal back in 2005. They grew very quickly over the coming years, and by 2009 the brewery had outgrown this original brewery and they moved up to Landvetter in 2010. The older brewery had a capacity of 1500 hectolitres at its maximum, but the new brewery started off with a capacity of 8000 hectolitres per year, and this has been more than doubled in recent years. Over the years the brewery's become very well known for their fruit beers and sour beers, and recently they've also been investing heavily in their barrel aging program and been producing some of the hazy IPAs as well. Actually, they do have the Fresh and the Crush series, and I forget which one it is, but quite a few of them are named after Greek letters and stuff, and you'll find those in lots of bars around Gothenburg. These guys, of course, are one of the co-owners of the two Brewers beer bars that you'll find in Gothenburg as well, along with All In Brewing, who are one of the gypsy brewers that you'll find in the area. And if you do want to visit the Brewers Beer Bar, I would recommend that you go to Tredje Långgatan, because that is the original one. Another interesting point about this brewery is that Electric Nurse Brewery are one of the gypsy breweries in Gothenburg. It is actually Mikael's daughter Ida who is one of the owners there, along with her husband, who is an electrician. She's the nurse, so the Electric Nurse. But they're a very nice brewery as well, and I'd recommend that you check out their beers also. And as I say, most of those are brewed at Dugas Bryggeri too. These guys also brew some of the Omnipollo Imperial Stouts under contract, or I don't know if Henok goes there and brews them himself, I'm not sure, but some of the Omnipollo Imperial Stouts are brewed at Dugas Bryggeri as well. But a very nice brewery, this one. Like I said, one that is not scared to try different styles. There's still a few styles that I need to try from these guys actually, such as a Pilsner. They've got a Schwarzbier that's just come out, and I'd love to see a Scotch Ale from them as well. That would be a very interesting thing for them to do. I always like trying my native beer styles from different places, and I haven't tried too many Swedish brewed Scotch Ales actually, and if anyone's going to do it well, I think Dugas will actually. So yeah, that's all you really need to know about Dugas Bryggeri for the moment. One of my favourite Swedish breweries, as I've mentioned to you. If you want to learn more, you can check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about the different beers that they've done. But quite a prolific brewery, and you know, you will see new beers from these guys pretty much every month, so keep an eye on the different release pages on Systembolaget.se. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this one then. So as you can see, the artwork on this is pretty much as you would expect from Dugas Bryggeri. You know, I don't know why they've kind of gone with these names. I mean, this Grand Series is relatively new. I think this has only been in the last kind of couple of months that they've actually been getting onto this. I think the first bottles were released in January of 2020, and they did have one that was like a banana toffee stout, but not liking bananas, I didn't try that one. But this is the third beer that I've reviewed for you from the Grand Series on the channel here, and I'll probably, you know, to be honest, I probably will end up reviewing all the ones that are released because I really enjoy the Dugas beers. But really nice artwork on this one, quite similar to what they often release. You can see it's a plain black bottle cap on this one. I keep saying that it would be nice if they just had one that had a D on it, or even, you know, the Dugas writing, but there you can see on the side there is the Damateo coffee roastery symbol as well. But yeah, hopefully that's the beginning of another partnership, because the coffee, as I say, the coffee stouts that you got from Dugas, in my opinion, were some of the best that I've found in the world actually. So yeah, so it says on the side here, coffee is part of a journey towards the perfect imperial stout, towards utopia. Step by step, beer by beer, on and on, forever. A grand canvas coloured with Damateo coffee for any cuppy needs roasty. So yeah, really curious to see what this one's like. There's not much more to tell you about this beer. A 10% coffee imperial stout with Damateo coffee, one of the coffee roasteries in Gothenburg, part of the Grand Series at Dugas Bryggeri. So let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Really curious to see how this one turns out. So yeah, let's get this out and into the glass. I have to admit, you know, one thing I would say, or I would recommend to Dugas, because as I said, over the last 18 months or so, I've really got into the coffee stouts on the back of the Key and the Sidamo Dim 2. I'd really recommend that these guys do a separate series of coffee stouts, because I think they really are onto something with this. And you know, do take coffee from lots of different roasteries around Europe. You know, do that and introduce people to the idea of craft coffee. I'm not sure if that's the plan that they had, but I think that would also be another interesting series for Dugas, the coffee series, or the bean series, or something like that. That would be very, very interesting. So maybe something for Mikael to look at. I know that he's watched a couple of my reviews in previous times. I don't know if he still does. He's probably a very busy man, of course. But yeah, as you can see with this beer, this one's poured a lovely dark ebony rosewood colour, which is what you would expect. If you shine the light through this, this one does have a little bit of that kind of chestnutty Coca-Cola coloured edge. The head on this one is faded away very quickly, which is quite common with higher alcohol beers. But I would say there is a little bit of a kind of thin foamy layer to this one, and it looks like it would be a sort of medium beige colour. One or two smaller bubbles going up towards the bottom of the head there, a few bigger ones sticking towards the side of the glass, but to be honest with you, the appearance of this one is not really surprising when you consider what style of beer this is. So yeah, let's have a look at the aroma then and see how we get on. Oh yeah, the coffee in this one is a bit of a beast, to be honest with you. You know, I've spoken in previous coffee stout reviews, and I've also had a coffee IPA from a Scottish brewery recently, which was really strange, but it was a beautiful beer actually. The whole thing about coffee beans, it's all to do with the altitude above sea level that they're grown at. They call it maso, meters above sea level. And if you grow them higher and higher, gradually you get more kind of aromatic qualities and fruity qualities and things like this. And you know, coffee beans, they can add such a complexity to beers. You know, they really are one of the most complex adjuncts that you're going to find. So with this one, straight away, first thing that strikes me about the coffee in here is that it's really quite pungent and aromatic. It really has that big level, that big aromaticity to it. It's got a very kind of earthy roastiness as well. There's a wee bit of fruitiness to this one, but to me, it's not the biggest or the most fruity coffee that I've come across. There's a degree of citrusy note in it as well towards the front of the nose, but mainly it's quite dark and roasty. It's quite a harsh roastiness now that I come to think of it, and when I think of it in comparison to other ones that I've had before. But this one really is more harsh and roasty. A little bit floral, quite citrusy as well, and it's really kind of interesting. It's not one of the smoother smelling coffee stouts that I've come across, so that's an interesting point about this one. But in fairness, you know, when you sit and smell it, it will, when your nose gets used to this, it really is going to smoothen out a little bit on the aroma. But yeah, to me it strikes me as quite a bright coffee, but definitely one of the more kind of harsh, roasty ones that I've come across in recent times as well. But yeah, the aroma of this one is quite nice actually. And we've only talked about the coffee beans so far, we're not actually talking about anything else that's going on in this beer. So, underneath those coffee bean notes that we've just talked about, I'd say there's a little bit of a chocolatey note to this one. It strikes me as kind of a high cocoa chocolate. There's a good little bit of red fruitiness coming out of this beer as well. The other thing that I notice about this is that you do have, along with those citrusy notes that are coming out of the coffee, you do have quite a little bit of red fruity sharpness to this beer in the aroma as well. But yeah, lovely kind of roasty, kind of carafa malt to this beer. I'm pretty sure there will be some carafa in this. It always forms a nice kind of backbone for these kind of coffee stout. It's also very good for some black IPAs as well, as long as you mix it with like a Cara malt of some description. So yeah, you can definitely smell a little bit of that really well fired bread crusty quality forming the linchpin of the beer. There's a wee bit of brown sugar in there, like a kind of treacly molasses sort of thing, a very well caramelised brown sugar. Bit of a kind of high percentage cocoa chocolate in there, you know, like an 80-90% chocolate. And then kind of sitting on top of that, you get the big coffee bean notes there. Very roasty, quite harsh roastiness actually, but also for me quite floral and quite citrusy, which is really interesting. You've got a little bit of a woody undertone to this one as well. But you know, overall, the malty and adjuncty side of this beer is really quite interesting, to be honest with you. In terms of the hoppy side of the beer then, yeah, you've got a good bit of earthiness coming out of this one, but it's very smooth. Could it be like Summit or something? It's always difficult to play guess the hops with these darker beers, in fairness. But yeah, there's a little bit of a floral quality to this one. I think I'm drinking this beer quite fresh, so bear in mind that with these Imperial Stouts, you can age them for quite a while, but you know, with it being a coffee stout from Dougas, I'm, you know, chomping at the bit to get into this beer, which is why I'm reviewing it so early. You could age these and let the hoppy side of the beer drop out a little bit. This one, as it stands, it does have a good little bit of a floral character to it. There's some nice grassiness in there as well, and the fruitiness, like I was saying, is quite sharp with this one, actually. And I think the kind of citrusy notes that you get out of this coffee bean that's in here are really kind of promoting that. So yeah, at the kind of top of the nose, if you like, at the front of the nose, you get a really kind of distinctive citrusy quality, but there's also you know, there's also a little bit of a kind of sharp berryish note to the beer, but then it just kind of smoothens out a little bit and you start to get some of the more kind of red fruity, red curranty type qualities coming out of the beer as well. So the fruity side of this is quite interesting. It's maybe got a little bit of a black curranty, blackberry thing the more that you smell of it as well. So I have to say, in comparison to the other coffee stouts that I've had from Dougas, the coffee notes in this strike me as a little bit harsher and a little bit more citrusy, which is quite quirky in my mind. It's not the smoothest smelling stout that I've had from Dougas Bryggeri either, but you know, knowing this brewery, this is a style that they're very good at, so I think it'll be really interesting to compare that aroma to the actual flavour, but a very bright smelling beer in my mind, and that's interesting for a coffee stout. So take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of this one before you get stuck in, but we're going to taste this one now. So this one is the coffee, part of the Grand Series, the Imperial Stout range. This one comes in at 10% ABV from the Dougas Brewery in Landvetter, just outside of Gothenburg in Sweden. Let's have a taste of this one and see how we get on. Slange Skål, brewed with Damateo coffee from Gothenburg as well. Skål. Yeah, again, that's a lovely beer. It really is, compared to the aroma. This one really is quite. It's not what I was expecting, and you know, that always makes for an interesting review. So let's have a let's see what else we can get out of this one. Yeah. First impressions out of this are that the roasty kind of qualities that this beer has, it's a lot smoother than I was expecting it would be, and the fruitiness is a lot different as well. But what I will say, you know, and it's unsurprising for Dougas, they've pulled off another pretty damn awesome beer here. So you know, if you get the chance to try this one, if you like a coffee stout, you know, you're not going to be disappointed with the ones that this brewery is putting out there. I really do think they should have a separate series for these, because it's, you know, they're talking about the perfect Imperial Stout, and a lot of the ones that you'll try in this Grand Series, they have different adjuncts and things like that in them. So it's not the same as the IPA in the sense where you're sticking to a similar base and playing with the hops and stuff like that. This one is quite different, because all of these stouts are going to taste very, very different actually. So you know, it might be worth looking into that, having a separate series, like a sweet stout series and a coffee stout series and like a Russian Imperial series or something like that. But then again, that would leave you with far too many series probably. Just me kind of putting my thoughts out there. But yeah, let's try and break the flavour of this one down then. So straight away with this beer, you can feel that nice kind of carafa quality. As I say, carafa is one of the malts produced at Weiermann in Bamberg, you can really feel that kind of nice roasty, toasty smoothness just blanketing the middle of the tongue. It's got a little bit of that kind of well-fired bread crust quality to it, but on top of that you really get a lovely kind of smooth, velvety, kind of chocolate quality, and that just that kind of smoothens the whole thing out there. So you've got a really nice balance between a more roasty character and that big velvety kind of chocolate note. Towards the back of the palate, I think the chocolate comes out as being a little bit more of a kind of higher cocoa percentage, like 70 or 80, but then as you move further forward on the palate, you start to get the more kind of milky chocolatey notes, and there maybe even is a little bit of vanilla flavour in this beer. If you go to the centre of the palate and then kind of move forward a bit, you really do get a little bit of a slight vanilla note out of this one, particularly in the aftertaste. You've seen how long it was since I've taken a sip of this one, and you start to get a bit of that sweetness there, but the coffee beans are kind of infused into the whole top layer of the beer, if you like. I really like how that goes together. If you go to the centre of your palate, you've got a lovely big kind of sweet, how would you say, like it's a very kind of oily, treacly molasses sort of thing. You can really feel that in the middle of the palate, and as you move out from it, you've got some nice, you've got a little bit of a more kind of grainy brown sugary note as well. But then the coffee beans there, as I say, they're infused into this whole kind of thing, this whole centre of your palate, and you do have quite a dark roasty quality to this one, which is very nice, and I like how that goes together in the beer. The roastiness though is a lot smoother than you get the impression of it being in the aroma, so that's a really interesting point about this one. I do think this coffee, it leans to some degree at the back of the palate towards the earthiness, but as you progress forward on the palate, you start to get a little bit of that kind of florally note, and it does strike me as being slightly citrusy as well. It becomes, as you reach the front of the palate where you're getting those kind of brown sugary notes, underneath that you can kind of feel this bright sort of citrusy note out of it. I think I'd struggle to say whether it's grassy, but it definitely has a little bit of a kind of floral quality in with that citricy note as well. So I mean, you've got a lovely kind of smooth base beer, but the coffee in a way is offering a more roasty bitterness to the beer too, but as well as offering a little bit of a kind of citrusy and floral brightness too. So the coffee really contrasts the actual base beer in this for me, which is really quite interesting. So thumbs up to Douglas Bryggeri for this. This is probably the quirkiest out of the coffee stouts that I've had from them so far, just because of the sheer difference between the coffee bean and the actual base beer. The other ones have all been about how the flavours kind of merge together, and to some degree this is as well, but it's the contrasts, I think, that stand out for me with this particular beer. So let's look at the hoppy side of it then. This thing really does get smoother and sweeter the more you drink of it. But at the back corners of the palate you can feel a little bit of that earthiness there. As you come further forward along the side of the tongue, that smoothens out really nicely. There is a good little bit of floral aromaticity there on the front corners of the palate, and then as you go around the front curve of the tongue, it's just a little bit more lighter and grassy. Then behind the front curve of the palate, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy, fruity esters start to push their way out of the beer. And this is where this one gets quite interesting. The other thing I'll say about this beer is that when you find when you go to the front corners of the palate and move in a little bit, you get some woody undertones to the beer. It's almost a little bit leathery as well, to be honest with you. But then as you find that kind of border between the malts and the adjuncts and then the fruit, you've got this kind of border area too, where it feels like the kind of very roasty top of a brownie or something like that. There is a little bit of that kind of vibe going on into the beer. But let's focus on the fruity sides as well. So yeah, when you take this beer in, it's very juicy and plummy. It's got a lovely dark kind of plummy fruit to it actually, but then as you kind of go with this one further into the aftertaste. That juices up and becomes gradually more figgy, and then you start to get some blackcurrant, blackberry type flavours out of this beer the further that you go into the aftertaste. So, I mean, overall, the fruitiness for me, it comes across as quite oily, but it's very juicy in the beginning, and the juiciness sort of builds with that oiliness as well. So this is a beer that's got a hell of a lot of complexity to it, and it really has made me think a little bit, and that's probably one of the reasons why I enjoy the coffee stouts so much, because the Dugas ones that you have are very complex in their own right. So again, thumbs up to Dugas Bryggeri for this one, but I really rate these guys very highly in terms of this style, and I would suggest to them that they have a separate series for coffee stouts, and do them with lots of different roasteries and things like that. Take coffees in from different roasteries and introduce people to different roasteries. I think that would be a really interesting project for them going forward, because I think they've got this style really, really down. I've had 3 very, very good imperial coffee stouts from them so far, and I look forward to what else they've got in store. So yeah, if you enjoy a coffee stout, Dugas Bryggeri are who you want to check out. In terms of the mouthfeel then, the last thing that we need to talk about, this is a pretty full-bodied beer. I don't think there's really any debate about that. Carbonation is very, very smooth. Mouthfeel overall I think is very oily. In terms of bitterness and things, I think we're talking about 40 or 50 IBUs with this. I don't find this beer overly bitter. I think 50 is a solid bet for this one. The bitterness that you get is coming from the coffee and a little bit of the earthiness from the hops, but this is not going to blow the head off you in terms of bitterness. The malt base, like I said, is very smooth. It does start to lean towards the sweet side of things. Even the coffee, it has a bit of dryness to it, but I find it gets sweeter and sweeter the more that you drink of this beer. And you've also got a lovely, quite juicy and oily fruitiness to this one too. But overall, this is just another beautiful coffee stout from Dugas, and I'm not in the least surprised with it. So yeah, check out this one if you get the chance. I think this is the best one out of the 3 that they've released in February 2020, so I look forward to seeing what other coffee stouts they have coming out over the next little while. But this one's awesome, and if you can try it, I really recommend that you do. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one is the coffee, an Imperial Coffee Stout, coming in at 10% ABV, part of the Grand Series from Dugas Bryggeri in Gothenburg here in Sweden. An awesome beer, and this is a style that they do very, very well in my opinion. So yeah, thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Dugas Bryggeri as well. No doubt we will return to these guys at some point very soon, because they're a really rather prolific brewery. But thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. Make sure you check out this brewery, have a go at some of their coffee stouts, but they're very good in a lot of other styles as well. Until the next time, slàinte just now, and I'll catch you guys soon. Slàinte, skål, cheers, catch you later.